Okay, yesterday we talked about the fall. We talked about creation and how God created this intention for mankind. And then, secondly, a terrible thing happened. Man fell. And we call that fall sin. And sin entered the world. And when sin entered the world, it created this rift between God and man, in which there had to be some form of way back. And God created a story of redemption. It wasn't just, didn't just start on Christmas Day 2,000 years ago. Oftentimes that's how we think of the gospel, and that Jesus came 2,000 years ago. But that's really the climax of the story. The story starts really with God reaching out to mankind through the stories of the Old Testament, how he reached out to Noah when mankind got so sinful that he had to send a flood and then restart again with Noah and his family. It's a story of God being present and being with Abraham as Abraham set out from a land called Ur in and around where the Assyrians were from, and then moved across and didn't know where he was going and where he was taking his wife and all of his flocks and his family. But he had to trust God. And along the road, God had to teach him faith. It's a story of faith when Moses set out from a burning bush in the middle of the wilderness, and God said, "Go and set my people free." It's a story of redemption when Joseph was thrown into a pit and then rescued. And even though he went through many trials, he ends up in the Pharaoh's house and enacts a plan to rescue the people of Israel. It's a story of God's hand on an entire nation, a nation of Israel that was supposed to be a blessing to all the nations around them. This is the story that God was laying out, trying to allow us to see that he and what his character was and how he longed for his children. And then through all of that history, through all of that story, God created a time and a place that was just the right time when Jesus would come, his only son, to come here on earth and live amongst us as a man. And then the Apostle Paul says this in Ephesians chapter 2. It says that in 2 verse 1, it says, "And you were dead in your trespasses and sins, in which you once walked, followed the course of this world, following the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that is now at work in the sons of disobedience, among whom we all once lived in the passions of our flesh, and carrying out the desire of the body and the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, like the rest of mankind." That was the state of things with us. But then it says that God, being rich in mercy because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. And by grace you have been saved, and raised us up with him and seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus. So I don't know if you heard that, but the plan was that we are saved not by our own works. We didn't have to find our way back to Eden, find our way back to this incredible God. It wasn't us finding him, but it was Jesus, him, God, finding us. God was on a search for us, sent himself in the form of Jesus here on earth to find us. And once he found us, he paid the price that we were supposed to pay for those sins on a cross. He died when we really should have died for all of the disobedience and all of the sin and all of the things that separated us from God. But Jesus did that, so that it's by that grace, that free gift, that we are then saved. That's the story of redemption.